Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. Today we're going on with two challenges actually. I'm going to combine two challenges together, and one of them is Junk Journal Madness, and I've got my journal here that I've been working on, so this will be part 3 in that, and the other parts will be linked below for you to catch up to where we're at with our junk journal made out of a calendar. But I'm also combining Find the Fun in Feb. Today's prompt in that challenge is stencils. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how I've progressed with my journal and how I've used stencils in the journal. And I'm actually going to make a journaling card on camera with you using stenciling, and I'm going to do some reverse stenciling as well. So let's get set up and we'll chat once we get started. Now let's have a little look at our resources today, what we're using. I'm going to be going through my journal, and I made this out of a calendar, as I said, and I will be showing you a few things that I've made already using stencils, and we'll put a few things into the journal and glue a few things down together at the end. But today I'm using two stencils. I'm using this one here, and it is a stencil from Stampin' Up. I've had it for quite a while. It's retired and I use it all the time. You probably see me using it quite often. I also have this one that is Reptilian Petals, number 175 from All and Create, and I'll be using that a little bit. So I'm going to be doing some reverse stenciling with this one and some normal stenciling with the leaf one. I'm also using this stamp to do a little bit of heat embossing, and it's from Stampers Anonymous, Tim Holtz, and it's faded type CMS 397, so we'll be using that. And I have a few printables as well. You can see I've got a little bit of a selection of printables. I have a couple of labels here. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. They're from Margaret at Seven Plaza, and it's Bob's Your Uncle, the digital kit. I'm also using some J. Lee Lou. I think these two are J. Lee Lou. This one here is Rusty Industrial Tags. It's from that. And this one is Antique Metal Tags. So a couple of different digitals from her. And this is of a flower that looks as if it's been painted with oil paint. So it's got visual texture to it. It's a printable, so it has no texture at all, but it has visual texture, and it's in some nice neutral tones. And that is from Creative Design Shop 10. So a few different designers from either Etsy or from Ko-Fi. Now, I will show you what I'm up to in here, like I said, at the end, and show you a few pages that we've done some stenciling on, but I thought I would bring this one up. Now, this one I did in our first episode of our journal, and I did stenciling in the background, and I also did some line work on it. Now, I'm not sure whether you can pick up the gold line work on the stenciling, and I love doing that as if it's like a drop shadow. So we're going to do a journaling card. You can see that we've got a pocket here. So I'm going to do a journaling card for going in here, and we're going to use these resources, and you can see that I've purposely picked things that are fairly neutral and pared back because it's needing to go in here and blend with what's going on. And I've pulled out this stencil because that's a stencil that I used for the background. But we're going to use it in reverse today, so I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So let's put our journal to the side so that we don't get anything wet on it, and we'll get started with this. So first thing I'm going to do is round the corners on my piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I think it's 300 GSM, and it's an Eckersley brand Bristol Smooth from here in Australia. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp our text on here and heat emboss it. So let's get that out. And I'm going to use my anti-static and some Versamark to put on here, and I'm just going to drop that on. I could have used a block on this one, but this will be fine. It's got a little bit of colour staining on that, but it will get covered up with the gold. I'm heat embossing it with gold, and I'll just clean that up a little bit, get rid of some of those bits that I don't want. I've moved the stamp a little bit, but I actually quite like that it looks a bit grungy, and I'll heat set that with my heat gun. Now I have pulled out a few colours. I've pulled out Vintage Photo, Frayed Burlap and Peeled Paint. I'm not going to use a great deal of peeled paint, but as you saw on our image in our journal, the page we're trying to match it to, there's quite a bit of gold and green, or yellow and green. Let's have a quick look again. This one here, and we've got quite a lot of neutrals and browns on it. So I'm wanting to use quite a bit of Vintage Photo and Frayed Burlap so that we're using the same colour palette. And I'm also going to put some watercolour gold on it down the track. So that's why I've heat embossed in gold. So let's put a tiny bit of Vintage Photo down first and just take away that stark white. I hope you've all had a wonderful weekend and getting lots done. We're coming to the end of another month, which means we're going to be seeing a few challenges come to the end. But I've enjoyed doing this challenge ran by Hazel and Candy for Find the Fun in Feb. I haven't done very many sessions in it, but I've done a few on Mondays and have really enjoyed it. They've had some excellent prompts, actually. Done a great job, so thank you to you both. And I hope you run another challenge together someday soon. Okay, so you can see I've just put down a little bit of background, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some reverse stenciling with this one in Vintage Photo. So I'm going to just put down my stencil onto a scrap piece of paper, piece of book page, and I'm going to stamp onto it so that it gets ink on it, because I want to use this stencil to mimic the background but for it to look slightly different. And then I'm just going to spritz it with a little bit of water, so just a fine mist of water, and then I'm going to use it as a stamp onto my journaling card. Now, where do I want this? A bit up here. Oh, we got a good impression there, didn't we? Yes, I'm happy with that. You see how it's just stamped the pattern on there. Now, you never get a really crisp stamp. I've got some nice lines here, but it's quite patchy, and that's because of the misting onto the distress ink. But I just want it in the background, so I'll dry that off. Okay, so let's have a little look at where we're putting our things so we can work out where we want to stencil. Yes, so I hope you're having fun playing in the challenges. I've had a very, very busy few days. I've been called into work to cover a colleague who's been unwell. So I've actually worked 2 days more than I was rostered to work. So I'm running a little bit behind, to be honest. So today's video is probably going to be a quick one, and that's okay. We've got to balance everything. Okay, I think I'm liking the smaller label, to be honest. So that is looking okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some leaves with this. And I've got out Frayed Burlap because I'm thinking I'd like to keep it all neutral with no green. Yes, I don't think I want to put green on it. So let's do some Frayed Burlap leaves. I'm using this and I'm going to pretend that they're leaves coming from underneath. So let's do some Frayed Burlap because it does have a little bit of a greeny undertone to it, Frayed Burlap. Yes, I was saying I've been working quite a bit, which, helps with the Europe fund, doesn't it? Helps with getting a little bit more spending money to go to Europe. But I'm back to work tomorrow for my normal shift. I do tend to work on a Monday. Actually, I'll just trace around it with my gold pen by hand. And I'm going to do it as if they're, like drop shadows onto it. I love using stencils. I love using stencils and stamps. And you can get some really wonderful layered stencils where you build the story with multiple stencils. I've never owned one of those. If any of you use those and you have a brand that you like using, let me know in the comments so that I can check a few out. I really like the look of reverse stenciling. I like that it looks grungy and a little bit weathered. I like it more than doing normal stenciling. So stencils that you can use to do reverse stenciling on, I am quite drawn to. Alright, I'm going to drop some gold watercolour onto it, and it is going to blend some of that frayed burlap, but I'm going to try and keep it just to the edge. And I'm going to use my Kiritaki starry colours. Let's just spritz it so that it can get moving. I love using this gold palette of colours, watercolours, and then hitting the edge with vintage photo. So I love doing that. Okay, you can see that I've just got a little bit of that gold moving around. I'm going to heat gun that so that it dries a little bit quicker. Okay, that's set now, and hopefully the camera's picking that up, all of the gold around it, that gold watercolour. The stencil was pretty well dry, so it blended a little bit, but not too much, which I'm pleased about. So let's now stick this together and build our story. So I think I'm going to put our label here, and we'll ink up our flower with some vintage photo. Yes, I've done a few more pages in my Junk Journal Madness journal that's ran by Susan over at I Totally Love It. It's the other challenge that I'm doing this month. Alright, let's just position these so I can decide if I'm happy with them. Okay, I'm happy with that there. So let's stick down our number first and our labels. We'll put a little bit of glue stick on those. Oh gee, that was hard to open. Yes, that's looking all right. And a little bit on this bit. It's just a number with no significance whatsoever. Let's cut that off. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to ink the edge of this, and I love putting vintage photo onto that Kiritaki watercolor gold and darkening up the edge. They just seem to blend together so beautifully. Let's see what it looks like in the journal, and we'll probably need some white splatters. Oh yes, that looks good. So you can see that I was wanting to bring in the golds, some black and all the neutrals so that it worked with the other page. I didn't want to put too much colour on this one. Okay, let's drop a few white splatters onto this just to give it a little bit of life. That will look lovely in there. Let's do that. Just a few, just as highlights. We'll set that to the side to dry while I show you through the journal. Okay, so we had a little look at the cover in the last episode, but let's have a little look at the new stenciling that we've got that's relevant to our prompt today. We're going to be putting our journaling card here into this little section. So obviously this composition had a lot of stenciling on it. You can see that I have done some stenciling here in the background of this composition. and I did that in white ink. Now this one is new, and I actually left the sulphur-crested cockatoo in the background of this one, and you can see that I have put on some book page, and I made the belly band with book page, and I stenciled on just this tiny little pattern motif with vintage photo and Victorian velvet, I think it is. And on the belly band there's a little bit of gesso and some texture paste, and then I dropped some Victorian velvet around the textured paste, and then I did the stenciling in the Victorian velvet at the top here so that it just picked up some of the pinks. And we've got a flower here, and you can see that this is a belly band that I will pop something in. I've still got to do the other page up here, but that's what's going in it. So I will just make sure that these marry together. They look pretty good together, the pinks repeating and the greens repeating. So I'm happy with it. I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm happy with it. But I wanted to use some more stenciling to use today's prompt. Now the other thing that I have done is I have done another journaling card. I think it's up here actually, and we'll pull it out. And here we go, similar thing, we've got some flowers on there because it is a flower journal after all. And I did some reverse stenciling and some stamping and used some gold again and some splatters. And these here are using a stencil that I used a Versamark and then heat embossed, just some little blobs. So that's quite a nice little journaling card, and it's blank on the back. I'll actually probably glue that onto something and it will slide into here and be a hidden writing spot. So that's good. That's one journaling card done. And then the last little bit of stenciling that I did this week was I made this page here. And there's quite a lot of stenciling and steps on this one. You can see that this is a flower that's in a fabric vase. So I made a vase and out of fabric, and it's a polka dot fabric, and then I have sewn it on. You can see the stitching on the back with a zigzag stitch. But in the background, the first thing that I did was I stamped and heat embossed the invoices. And then the next thing that I did was I stenciled on this blobby background, and I used Victorian velvet first, and then I went back over it with vintage photo. So you can see that some of the blobs are quite brown and some of the blobs are pink. And then the next bit of stenciling that I did was I did these numbers. So I used a Stamperia stencil with digits and alphabet on, and with fired brick, I think it was, I did some stenciling, and then I glued on my image here. So this flower here is an Australian Christmas bells, and they're absolutely beautiful. They come up and they dangle down like bells, and they're bright red at the top, and then some of them are a little bit pinkish as they start to open up, and then they get really nice deep red, and they come out at Christmas time. And so I've got a Christmas bell, and then I've just put on a little bit of a cluster down here that is dancing your eye around the red. So the red here, the red here, the red down here. So just to balance it out. And the last thing I did was I've just put a little bit of washi on just to emphasize that eye movement. So your eye moving down like this. So that just helps with moving your eye across the composition. So let's glue that one in, and it's going onto a pink page, so that's why I wanted the edge to be pink. So we'll put a little bit of vintage photo onto the page edge, and we'll glue that one in. I finished that off with some gold splatters. So yes, I've had a nice few days playing with some stencils. It's always good to be using your resources. I love doing things where you use your resources that you've already spent money on, like stamps, stencils, and your paints and that sort of thing. I love it. And that's just a decorative page. On the other page, we've got a policy closure that we're going to do. I'll burnish that down. Okay, that's looking good. I'm really happy with how that page turned out. Let's have another quick close-up of that. The Christmas bells sitting in a polka dot material vase. It's actually linen, I think. And the last stenciling project we need to pop in is the one that we did today. So before I do that, I might just tear off a tiny bit of washi just to tie it into the other things that have got a little bit of washi on it and stitching. So I'll just tear this so that it makes sense. Oh yes, that's nice. It just grounds it a little bit, doesn't it? And we might put a little bit up here. Okay, so that's my journaling card that I did today with you that has stenciling on it and reverse stenciling and quite a few other bits of collage and watercolor and mixed media. I love playing with a bit of mixed media. Okay, so that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed that mixed media journaling card session and a little bit of a look around the other pages that I have made using some stenciling. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, that would be wonderful, and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to head over to Hazel and Candy's channel for Find the Fun in Feb, and also have a look at the hashtag, which I'll link it below for you to have a little bit of a look at all the other people that are participating in the challenge. And also check out Susan's channel for Junk Journal Madness. So it happens every month and it's just a different themed journal each month. So we're coming to the end of working on our flower journal. I've got quite a bit to do before I see you again, haven't I? And that will be on Thursday. So have a great week, everybody. And I hope you have time this week to make something fun and new. And I'll see you with another project. Thanks for stopping by again. Bye for now.